on here. So what we're seeing right now, we're seeing a whole new economy being built out in front of us. What we've been accustomed to up until about 2019, that is gone. It's never going to come back. What we're likely going to see is more of a digital economy. And this is going to ensure that. Now, this isn't, some fly-by-night type of publisher. They said a considerable risk, right? And this is Credit Suisse. And this came out today, about 5 hours ago, 6 hours ago. I'm going to say what's up to everybody in the chat, and then I'm going to walk you guys through exactly what's going on. So take a look at this. And then I'm going to talk about the economy. I'm going to talk about the billionaires that are hoarding cash right now and selling off a ton of stock, getting ready for what I think is likely going to be a huge, huge buying opportunity. What we're seeing in the economy, traditionally, as I've talked about many times before, is that these small businesses, they make their money during the winter months, and those winter months generally would get them through Q1. And then they'll be able to ride it out into the summer. A lot of places like New York, Los Angeles, Miami, a lot of other places as well. But they really depend heavily on tourism and people coming there to spend money, going out, spending money with the family, going on holidays. And now what we could be seeing here is a very unique scenario. So considerable risk, right? After taking an initial wait and see approach, Credit Suisse, one of the world's largest investment banks, now sees a considerable risk that the US and Europe will have stringent, right? And so you don't know what stringent means. Strict, very strict. So this is probably going to be worse than what we've seen the first time. Credit Suisse view is at odds with and the nation's top, right? And so both of whom have indicated that there's no need. But you also look at what happened today, and then everything kind of is moving in that direction. And what they announced today, if you haven't heard, and by the way, also, this came out 2 days ago, is that Extreme, right? That 3 days ago, excuse me, December 18th. But Biden came out today and said that they're going to be basically making $500 million of these available at home, right? $500 million, but they're also including 1,000 members of the military are going to be deployed. So this is a whole new type of response. This is more of an aggressive, proactive type of response, which I think would be further supported with more of those types of actions, much more aggressive than anything that we've likely seen in the past. Now, Credit Suisse, we have to just kind of connect the dots here. So Credit Suisse, right? And then we have this image here, right? So all of these players are, excuse the noise, I'm in Philly. All of these players are kind of, around the same, But now you have the alligators that are sitting on the sidelines. They're sitting on the sidelines and holding so much cash. But this is what's fascinating here is the total household debt climbs over 15 trillion in Q3 of 2021. And this is by the Federal Reserve Bank of New York. So this is who's supplying this information. This is about a month and a half old. New York Federal Reserve Bank of New York Center for Microeconomic Data today issued quarterly reports on household debt and credit. The report shows that the total household debt increased by 286 billion, about 2%, to 15.24 trillion in the third quarter of 2021. The total debt balance is now 1.1 trillion higher than at the end of 2019. It is also 890 billion higher than that of Q3 2020, and 2.57 trillion higher is nominal terms than the 12.68 trillion peak. And follow along here because this really paints the picture clearly. The report is based on data from the New York Fed's Consumer Credit Panel, nationally representative random sample of individual and household level debt and credit records drawn from anonymized Equifax credit data. Mortgage balances, right, they picked up by 230 billion, stood at 10.67 trillion at the end of September. Credit card balances increased by 17 billion the same size increase as the second quarter. Despite the increase, credit card balances remain 123 billion lower than they had been at the end of 2019. Auto loan balances increased by 28 billion in the third quarter. Student loan balances grew by 14 billion, coinciding with the academic borrowing year. In total, non-housing balances grew by 61 billion, with gains across all debt types. New extensions of installment credit remain near a series high for both mortgages and auto loans. Mortgage originations, which include mortgage refis, stood at 1.1 trillion, declining slightly from the series of high 1.2 trillion reached in the second quarter of 2021. The volume of nearly originated auto loans, which includes leases, was up 200 billion, declining slightly from the second quarter series high of 202 billion. Aggregate limits on credit card accounts now stands at roughly 4 trillion, increasing by 88 billion in the third quarter, reversing the decline seen in the first 3 quarters of the pandemic recession. We are again seeing credit card balance increase in the third quarter after a solid rise in the previous. So also what you're having too is you're having companies and businesses investing heavily into their enterprise, hoping to pick it back up off the ground after the rough 2021 that a lot of these businesses have experienced. Now, if they step into a situation where the holiday shoppers are not there, this is going to be devastating for these businesses. Say Donahue Lee, research officer at the New York Fed, a pandemic relief effort wind down, we are beginning to see the reversal of some of the credit card balance trends seen during the pandemic, namely reduced consumption and the paying down of balances. At the same time as the pandemic restrictions are lifted, consumption normalizes, credit card usage and balances are resuming their pre-pandemic trends, although from lower levels. Aggregate delinquency rates across all debt products remain very low and continue to decline since the beginning of the pandemic, attributed to a large degree because of the CARES Act, right? And so this CARES Act and lender concessions, you have also the eviction moratoriums that helped a lot of tenants, also, lifted a lot of strain off the tenants. And then you had forbearances, which temporarily lifted a lot of the strain off of landlords. So with those taken into consideration, I think that what we would see here is we would see delinquency rates at a much, much higher rate. But because of the impact that those measures had, obviously it's showing as low. But that's not going to be a long-term viable solution. It's simply just a Band-Aid over a devastating wound. The share of mortgages that transitioned to delinquency increased slightly by 0.041% from a second quarter record low, as the option to enter forbearance is no longer widely available. As of late September, 2.7% of outstanding debt was in some stage of delinquency, a 2.0 percentage point decrease from the fourth quarter in 2019, just before the pandemic hit the US. The New York Fed also issued accompanying Liberty Street economic blog post that further examines credit card trends, including credit scores and balances. The blog takes a detailed look at increases in credit issuance and limits, and at which borrowers are being approved for credit in recent months amid recovering consumption. The report includes one-page summary, right? And so you have the 1.1 trillion in newly originated mortgages, 69% of which originate with borrowers with scores above 760. So traditionally, if you have a credit score above 720, that's considered good credit, really good credit, right? 760, that is a top tier borrower. That type of borrower is someone that is never late on loans. They probably have multiple streams of income, or they're living below their means. They're big savers. They invest well. They're the borrowers that banks really want to have, right? Because they take very little risk with these borrowers. And right now, these borrowers are out there sitting on hoards of cash, and they're looking to allocate those funds into hard assets that are going to at least preserve their value, if not increase over time. So 2% but also note that a lot of the 760 borrowers, this is out of pure speculation, probably stayed employed over the last couple of years, right? And they were making money over the past couple of years, not just through their jobs and through passive income, but they were pulling in money. They weren't just collecting unemployment benefits. So a lot of the borrowers that I would assume would be below this threshold as a median 760 score may have a harder time obtaining financing going forward, in the event that we step into a recession or the economy closes back down, like Market Watch has reported today. So what they're then saying is that new foreclosures remain very low between July 1st and September 30th, although the hold on foreclosures due to the CARES Act was lifted July 31st. Additional available relief at the federal and local levels will forestall many foreclosures until the start of 2022. The share of mortgage balance 90 days plus past remained at 0.5 point. Student loans, outstanding student loan debt stood at roughly 1.6 trillion in the third quarter, a 14 billion rise of 2021. I actually think that student loan defaults are going to skyrocket. And the reason I say that is because what makes the most sense to me is that we're going to have so many careers that are not going to be viable in 2023, 2024. They're not going to have the same level of desirability. And the borrowers that signed up for these loans, $100,000, $150,000 student loan debt, looking at their career saying, hey, that's on a downward trend. My time is probably better spent on this area or this segment of business or whatever it is. And they're going to start spending more time there. And they're saying, what am I going to do with all this debt? If I pay this debt, I'm not going to be able to afford to live. I'm not going to be able to afford to, afford food. Food prices are going up. Rents are going up. Everything's going up. I think it's going to be likely that we're going to have a lot of borrowers that are going to simply, not be able to pay back. About 5.3% of aggregate student loans 90 days plus delinquent in Q3, right? So that's a pretty decent amount, 5.3%. Typical default on a credit card is probably around 7 to 9%. So it's kind of median, I guess. The lower level of student debt delinquency reflects the Department of Education's decision to report current status on loans eligible for CARES Act forbearance. Account closings, credit inquiries, collection accounts. The number of credit inquiries within the past 6 months, an indicator of consumer credit demand, was 122 million, a 1.3% increase from previous quarters. The increases in the second and third quarters of 2021 came on the heels of 6 quarters of declining inquiries. 217 million new accounts were opened, right? And so that's what we're going to be seeing, though. We're going to start to see more and more of these 760 borrowers, these private equity funds running out there, scooping things up. Right now, Zuckerberg, Elon, Bezos, everyone knows that they're selling stocks at record levels. Zuckerberg has sold stock every single day in 2021, every business day in 2021, right? And right now, big wealth investors are likely putting money to work in stocks after amassing record levels of cash. Investors added more than 43 billion into money market funds last week, bringing the total amount of cash raised in the past 7 weeks to massive 226 billion, according to data from Goldman. The money market stockpile has not declined in 2021, despite the rally in stocks, with assets under management and cash equivalents standing a record 4.7 trillion. My core thesis is that money will come out of negative yield in cash and out of bonds aggressively in early 2022 following December's boardroom asset allocation meetings. Every private wealth advisor in the world is conducting year-end allocation review meetings right now. The feedback will be largely that investors hold too much cash with rising inflation. But right now, Buffett through, obviously Berkshire, sitting on $150 billion in cash as of last month. And he's been stockpiling money for a while, just holding cash. And it takes a lot of confidence to hold cash right now, knowing that you're going to be paying a premium, and that you're getting penalized every single month holding that cash due to inflation. But the smart investor that's sitting on a lot of money right now also realizes that the traditional economy is going to go through a big, big change. What we could be seeing soon is a reset on retail rents. Now, if you think about, if you were to open a restaurant, for example, that restaurant, the owner of that property is factoring in the price that he's going to pay you based upon the ability of your, of what you can earn from that location. He's not going to be able to charge you more than what you could earn, right? And so if we have a situation like what's coming in the next 2 weeks with a lot of, new, all that, everything that's coming there, we could have a situation where they could lose 20% of their employees, they could lose 20% of their customers, and food prices are going up, gas prices are going up, everything's going to be going up. And what's very, very likely to happen, like JP Morgan said, that they think that oil could go to 150 bucks a barrel, almost a 100x from where it is right now, right? Or 100% more than where it is right now. So that would obviously be factored into the price that these restaurants, everyone's going to be paying just to get food, because it's going to cost more to distribute the food. Everything is going to be going up, right? And so if incomes are going down across retail, and then we have this situation like they just suggested, where if that does happen, then we could have a scenario where they simply, can't hold the losses. They're going to have losses that they're going to be forced to hold, potentially, is what it looks like to me, and rising food costs, rising gas prices, everything's going to be going up, and there's going to be less customers coming in. That is a recipe for disaster. But if you're a billionaire or someone very wealthy, that is a recipe for an incredible opportunity to invest. Now, what I think is likely to happen is I think that these investors are sitting on all this money because they know that there's going to be a very big, big problem coming to the economy, and money solves problems. They're going to be able to run out there and just get out of the cash and start locking in really, really good assets for pennies on the dollar. And that's where I see things going. I think we're going to see that happen very, very soon. If I were to set a date, they're talking, and this winter's what, next 5-8 weeks, right? And then it's pretty much over. So it's pretty soon is what they're talking. So that's kind of where they're saying the assessment of the bank's investment committee comes as global stock indexes were broadly rebounding Tuesday, helped by optimism, right? Still, while Americans are being weary about renewed curbs, these restrictions, right, in Europe, Netherlands is closed, non-essential shops, bars, restaurants, right? And so this suggests that the risks are considerable that the U.S. as well as large parts of Europe will not be able to avoid it, right? That's what's going to happen. So other questions I ask myself too are, what will happen with landlords, right? And that I've talked about that as well right now. Over the past couple of months, I've said I personally think that there's going to be more restrictions coming for landlords, for people that are acquiring assets where they're going to be putting in tenants. When I say tenants, I don't mean a retail property where you're putting in, that probably applies as well, but actually housing. So when you have housing and they put in, let's say, a new moratorium, eviction moratorium, and they have new provisions, that could be a real big problem for landlords to hold, especially now that landlords are holding a lot of debt, per what I just reported to you guys on from right here. This is from Federal Reserve Bank. So debts are going up, right? Everyone's sitting in a lot of debt, and people are doing so. They're doing so under the impression that it's going to be much better off to be in that debt because the dollar is going to depreciate and the assets are going to at least hold value, if not appreciate, because the purchasing power of the currency is going down, right? And so, but, the main thing is that if you can't hold on to those assets in a storm, then, people like Bill Gates and Zuckerberg and Elon Musk and Jeff Bezos and a lot of other billionaires, a lot of other private equity firms are going to run out there and see this as an opportunity to just start acquiring assets. So that's kind of what I'm seeing. What do you guys think? Do you guys agree with me? Disagree with me? With what? Really, these are kind of just the facts. So I don't come on here and just speculate. I'm looking at everything and kind of putting the picture together so we can kind of all see what it looks like. And to me, that's what it's looking like. Yeah, smash that like button for me, and YouTube will share the content. The more people that are kind of aware of what's going on, the better. Someone said a depression is coming. It's, I personally see this as like a big game of musical chairs, right? This is not operating as a normal economy. Everything seems rigged to me. The stock market, crypto, real estate, everything is rigged by low interest rates and new provisions that have encouraged spending and have encouraged investing. If they did not do what they, have done, this real estate market would not be what it is. The stock market would not be, at 36K. Everything wouldn't be what it is. but it is that way because of these new laws, right? And so anything could happen in the drop of the dime to change, to change the economy, change the market. And then at that point in time, it'll probably be like a fire in a movie theater where everyone's, scrambling for the exit. I don't think that this is going to be able to maintain long term. But what I'm definitely seeing here are some very, very big red flags. Some very, very big red flags. This is not a, just as I mentioned, a fly by night type of, provider of news. They are saying that it's considerable, right? This came out today where this plan, right? This is not a joke. This is very, very big. When you're talking stuff like that, this to me is just communicating to loud and clear, writing on the wall that things are about to get real. Things are about to really step up. And I'm investing in many things right now, but one thing that I'm mainly doing is I'm restructuring things that have more of an online presence where I'm mobile. I have options, because options are going to be key going forward. Being able to pivot is going to be very key. Traditional face-to-face human interactions through brick and mortar retail, restaurants, and businesses, I think are going to see a very challenging 2022. That's my prediction. I'd be willing to bet money on it that they're going to have a tough time in 2022. And a lot of them are held up by, a lot of these checks that were written from the government, whether it be through the CARES Act, whatever it is. They're supported by the eviction moratoriums and these checks coming in from the government to keep their lights on. And nothing's going to be for free. Let's see here. I'm gonna catch up on some of these comments and we'll talk about this. Yep, blood pressure is going up. Yep. Get a job, nothing's free. Nothing is free. When anyone is trying to give you something for free, most likely, they want something from you bigger than what they gave you. Let's see here. They change your credit score every time you make. Yeah, I pulled my credit score up. I've over 8, I think it's like an 814 or 815. But what I did, if you guys are looking to increase your credit score right now, to put yourselves in a position to where you can, get qualified for mortgages or get better rates, is if you open up business bank accounts at different banks and you apply for credit cards, and essentially your utilization, they're going to look at how much you're spending in comparison to your utilization. It's going to bring down your utilization on those cards, and then you're going to be viewed as a more responsible borrower. Now, I don't have any credit card debt, but when they see that you're qualified for a lot of credit card debt, it's going to increase your score. It's going to help you. 90% correction will happen due to growth being fake. Growth, I agree on that. The growth is not real. At least it doesn't seem that way to me. It doesn't seem that way to me. Anyone in the chat room? Let's see here. Yeah, that's where I'm at. A lot of my friends were like, "No, that's not going to happen. That's not going to happen." I was mentioning that like 6 months ago. I'm like, "No, it's going to happen. It's going to happen." And it seemed like I was right. Unfortunately, I don't want to be right, but unfortunately, there's a lot of comments here. Let's see. Yeah, your town's not enforcing light bills. You're trying to squeeze. The middle class is going to be. That's why I've been advising for a while now that it's so important to really take a hard look at the business that you're in, the industry that you're in, and ask yourself: is this industry going to be on the upswing in the next couple of years, or is it going to be on the downswing? If the industry is going to be on the downswing, then that is a hard indicator that it's time to start reading and studying and learning about a new area in which you could earn an income that's going to be on the upswing. You don't have to dive fully into it, but read a few pages a night, start opening your mind to it, learning and reading and studying, watching podcasts on it, doing everything you can do to position yourself. Because what I think is that going to happen is there's probably going to be a handful of industries that have 100x, 200x gains. There's going to be more industries that go down by 50, 80% or more. Let's see, 10K is a lot. Yeah, that's a commitment. Let's see here. Ooh. I prepare myself, economic depression approaching. Yeah, I mean, I would make sure, one second. I would make sure that whatever you're buying right now in terms of real estate, that you're not going to be on 80% LTV, loan to value. If you're going to buy a $500,000 property, my suggestion right now, if you're going to buy a $500,000 property, make sure you're buying it under value, under market, and make sure that there's a way for you to apply forced appreciation. So whether it be through, improving the desirability to where rents would be increasing, whatever you can do to increase the desirability of that asset to build out a margin of safety. Because the last thing you want to do is have a property that is the nicest property on the, on the street, and then the market dumps, and then you're stuck because that property is going to fall like a rock. You want to have that margin of safety in every single deal that you're buying right now. This definitely isn't the time for you just to go out there on Zillow and throw a dart at the board and just buy anything. I think it's going to come down to real savviness and smart investors that are going to be able to do really well going forward. I was even reading something where they're saying that margins are so slim right now on house flips because everybody is trying to get into house flips. Everybody. So it's an indicator that change is coming. But I'll catch you guys on the next live stream. And yeah, I'm launching a new business. I'm working 14, 15 hours a day on it. So I'm doing the live streams at night. Probably come in the next 7 days, 8 days. I'm going to start posting my regular videos, the traditional videos that I post during the day. So hit the notification bell, subscribe, and I'll catch you guys on the next live stream.